All right, Rams fans, we are back after missing a week. We apologize for the absence. I'm sure many of you missed us, especially lime green shorts over here. But he's wearing pants this week. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm great. As our editor and assistant producer, John Binkley, pointed out, Limey's back in action.
I'm Jeremy Pearl. As always, Ryan McKenna. And a lot of news to talk about this week.
We got a lot, man.
We do.
There's a lot that we missed last week.
Which was an important week in itself.
It was a crazy week in itself.
So we apologize for that, scheduling conflicts and whatnot. So let's get right into it. Men's soccer, unbelievable season, disappointing finish. After making the OUA Final Four and the chance to win Ryerson's first ever banner and OUA championship, they lost in dramatic fashion to dreaded rival York University, and then went on to nationals where they dropped their 2 games and unfortunately finished 7th in the country, which is tremendous and the best finish ever.
Yeah, it was a crazy last couple weekends for this men's soccer team. I know a couple weekends ago, both you and I were out at Birchmount Stadium for the OUA Final Four, and then saw quite the gold medal game in that OUA Final Four. Ryerson wasn't really playing all their best players, which was a lot of
injuries.
A lot of injuries, yeah, and that really hurt them, that goal in the 45th by York. But nonetheless, they go to CIS and hey, they battled hard.
They did.
And whatever happened, it was a great season. I think just the fact that you can actually get to a CIS national championship is amazing and should be recognized. And I guess that sort of leads you to your next point and the incredible play of Alex Berletich this year.
Absolutely. Alex Berletich, CIS MVP, the first CIS MVP in Ryerson athletics history. What an accomplishment for him. 13 goals in the regular season, an unbelievable goal at nationals where he scored from half, and just tremendous play all year round. And we're happy to have had him, and we're sorry to see him graduate this year.
We are sorry to see him graduate, and he's making a extremely good case for Male Athlete of the Year at the Ryerson Athletics Awards coming up in late March. But he was amazing, and I mean, speaking with Christian Moraldo on our last show, he just mentioned how Berletich is going to be such a guy that they're going to miss next year, not only for his play on the pitch, but also his character off the field as well. So a great guy, great season, great career in the OUA, and looking forward to seeing how this team, recuperates for next year.
Now, moving on from soccer, men's hockey are back in action this week after a seven-day suspension for disobeying team conduct. Team went on a trip and some things happened.
Yeah, but nonetheless, the team is back, and they did forfeit 2 games, so now they sit in tied for 5th place, or technically with the games in hand, they're in 6th place in the OUA West Division with a record of 5-4. So they have a steep hill to climb. A couple big games against RMC and Carleton. I don't know how they're going to look on Friday. That's always tough to, you get into the groove of the season, and then bam, you cut short. You can't do anything for a whole week long.
And they haven't played in 14 days.
Exactly. So it's gonna be very interesting to see. I don't know how they're gonna look against RMC, and RMC is one of those feisty teams that you just never know what's gonna go on with them. So we'll see what happens. And then Carleton on Saturday. Very excited for that matchup. 2 very good teams. Carleton's always near the top, and we'll see what happens there.
I will tell you, regardless of how they look, play-wise, they will look a little different. New duds, new jerseys.
New jerseys.
You and I
saw them against Western with those new ones. They're different. They're very different.
A little retro.
A little bit retro. I love the nameplates on the back.
The nameplates are great.
But a little change of scenery. I know volleyball as well as basketball. Also got new uniforms as well. So
new duds for everyone, really. Women's and men's basketball. Great weekends. Both teams going 2-0. Women on Saturday in a dramatic fashion, knocking off Laurier, kind of a buzzer beater, so to speak, and both teams 2 dubs.
Looking forward to speaking with Keneca Giles a little bit later on in the program as we talk about that victory. That was nuts. Myself, as long as with Alex Bloomfield, how they call on the Rams Network, and oh man, it was crazy. Men's game was also excellent against Laurier. They played Friday night really well. JV Mukama was really good. Kadeem Green was really good this weekend. I liked both those guys, and they're going to be an exciting team. They are every year.
Ranked 6th in the country right now. They were originally ranked 4th in the country after an unfortunate loss to Mac, but some people say that might not be a bad thing. You know, it kind of tempers expectations and let them really just kind of settles in and focus on playing basketball instead of last season where they had the undefeated record at break.
Well, I mean, you entered the season at number 4 in the CIS, right? So it's a little bit, those expectations are really high. And maybe it's almost as though it keeps them a little bit more humble whenever you lose to a team like Mac. And don't get me wrong, Mac's a great team.
Very solid.
So it's interesting, and you do almost need those kicks every now and again. And maybe, you know, looking back on men's soccer, they didn't have that, and they lost whenever it really did count. But for men's basketball, maybe that early season's loss, it sort of motivates them for the rest of the season.
Now, both our volleyball teams were in action, men's and women's, taking on Waterloo. 5-set dramatic wins for both squads.
Thrillers.
A lot of thrilling action for the Rams this weekend.
It's great. Women's coming down from 2-0 to roar back and defeat Waterloo. And Waterloo is one of those teams, too, where you just never really know what's going to happen with them. So good on both teams to get the W's, and they're both looking really solid so far.
Now, coming up later on the show, women's basketball player Keneca Giles. So stay tuned for quotes from them.
Joining us now on the Ramily Insider podcast, Keneca Giles. Keneca, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, no, we're appreciated that you're here. Quite the finish on Saturday night. Let's take a look. Dina Menko subbing in. She'll go to Giles. Down low. Yes! Keneca Giles gets the ball. All right, so we just saw the play. Could you take us through what was going on through that sequence?
Well, okay, can I take it back to the play before that?
Yes, please do. Because it was like a crazy last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So we were supposed to, once they inbounded the ball, once we got the sense that they were going to start attacking, we were supposed to foul immediately. But that didn't happen because, like most things in our team, they just crumble most of the time. So that didn't happen, and they were able to get off a wide-open three, which just happened to go in. So during the timeout.
That was crazy.
I know, it was. I didn't.
I thought it was the dagger.
You know, so a lot of people probably did, but I'm just really glad that we kept our heads up and we managed to, stay in it. So during the timeout, there's a play that we have that we practice during practice, and we never run it. Only the coach can call it. So as soon as she started to draw it up, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the play. So we set it up. And it didn't happen the way it's supposed to happen, but it just worked because there's just so much confusion going on one side that leaves the whole other side of the key wide open. So once I came off that screen, Nicole gave me such a good pass. I was just able to put it in. And
in your post-game interview, you had mentioned how scared you were whenever you got the ball.
Yeah, because when you're too wide open, things can go wrong quickly. So because I was so wide open, I was like, oh, and I know there was only 5 seconds left on the clock, so I just tried to get it up as high off the blackboard as I possibly could so that it will go in. So
it got you guys the win. It got you guys back to 500 on the season. You started off the season not the greatest, 0-2. What, I guess, was the mentality going into last weekend? Was there any concern?
Well, because those teams were tough teams, nationally ranked teams, we just had to we took it as a learning experience, as places that we want to be in the near future. So we just came back, brushed it off our shoulders, and said, let's get 2 wins at home, 2 really winnable games at home.
Now, you guys have lost kind of a few veterans from last year's squad. Do you kind of take it upon yourself to, as one of the veterans on this year's squad, take a leadership role?
I try to, as much as I possibly can, whether it's just hustle plays, bringing energy, just doing what I know I have to do that will make the team successful. I try to do that all the time.
Now, you still have a young roster, a lot of rookies this year. How do you take them and kind of build off the success of last weekend?
It's just the mentality that we have in practice. Even though we won 2 games, we can't think that we're invincible because that's just 2 games. So we have a tough weekend ahead of us this Friday and Saturday. So we have to stay focused and pay attention to the minor details during practice this week.
Well, thank you for joining us on the show. Women's basketball player Keneca Giles.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guests for providing great insight on,
tremendous insight
on dramatic win last weekend for basketball, and then as well as the great events that are coming up this weekend.
There are some great events coming up this weekend. Looking forward to it.
$3 beers on Thursday night for the women's hockey team, Armed Forces night for the men's hockey team when they take out on RMC. But let's talk about big weekends for basketball, both coming off 2-0 weekends. The women facing Windsor, the number 2 ranked team in the country, while the men have a battle against the number 7th ranked team in the country, a team that was here last year in the OUA Final Four in our building. Should be a tremendous weekend against two, great opponents for both teams.
Two great opponents, and it's going to be some great basketball. Hoping to see the Coca-Cola court behind us quite full for this weekend's games, and it's just going to be great basketball. I expect guys, at least on the men's team, like Aaron Best and Jamal Jones, to continue to play well, and then it's all about continuing to build that chemistry, and they only have a couple more weeks before the holiday break to do so, and I think they can do it, and I expect some great basketball both on the men's and the women's side.
Now our volleyball teams both in action. Both on the road this weekend.
Both on the road, yeah. Men are at Western as well as Windsor, and then our women's team are playing Toronto. So at least for the women's side, Toronto, always a great test. We saw the home opener here a little while ago, and that was an exciting matchup. Not the best first set, but we were told to never talk about that again. But nonetheless, great matchup. And then the men's, they have a couple tough matchups, but we'll see how they do.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast this week. We will see you back with more Rams updates next week here on the Ramily Insider. For Ryan McKenna, I'm Jeremy Pearl. Have a good one, everyone.